Ask him, can I get my glove box? Can I get, that's where my registration is, my proof of insurance is. Otherwise, he may think you're reaching for a weapon. And then he'll draw his.
You said to not keep all those IDs together in your pocket?
If you have multiple driver's license.
Oh, they meant like a school ID. And
No, that's all fine. Unless they don't have the same name on it. I am just saying,
okay.
It has been our experience that not everyone who's under 21 has one license. So you don't want to be pulling out your wallet with the officer right there and, oh, here's my Illinois and my Oklahoma and my Arizona license, and they all have different names and ages. Okay. When the officer pulls up behind you, also don't reach under your seat. Anytime you reach anywhere in that vehicle with the officer behind you, now he has probable cause to search you and your vehicle because it looked like you were hiding contraband, or that you may have a weapon, and so he's worried about his officer's safety. So that is something that you really should keep in mind. It's just worth it just to sit there calmly until he approaches the car. Even if you're ticked off because he pulled you over and there really isn't just cause, try to be polite, you know, otherwise he's going to escalate the situation too. The only thing you can control in that situation is you. And Suzanne's absolutely right. If there's an issue, fight it later. You're not going to win it at that moment.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know if you hit on it. What about like people who impersonate police officers? Is that a whole other workshop?
That's a whole other crime.
Well, I mean, like as far as knowing our rights with who we think are the police officers, I mean, is a way to protect ourselves in that case too? I mean,
I would think so. I don't want to be shot by a fake cop either. I mean, I wouldn't want to antagonize either one.
Well, I mean, I don't mean, okay, I think you're fake, so I'm gonna hit you or jump you. I don't mean that. I mean, like, how do you, like, cause I watched, she was with my nana, and she says all these crazy shows about police officers doing all these things, and this woman, like, was being chased by a cop, and she didn't know it was a cop, so she went to her house, and he ended up, like, beating her up because it was a fake cop. Or maybe him and a real cop, I don't remember, I wasn't listening all that well, but it's like, how do you tell?
Well, I think real cop, crooked cop, fake cop, someone I know is not a cop, anyone I don't know and don't trust, I want to keep myself safe and not give them any information, I think.
You do have a right, if it's a police officer, to ask to see their badge and their identification.
But even that can be fake, right?
Normally they don't go to that extreme because they all carry identification cards that have their picture on it with, or they should, with the police precinct they work for.
So if a uniformed officer comes and has a badge, can you still ask to see his identification?
You can, because you can get a badge, but it's much harder to get the police ID with their picture and stuff.
And that would probably offend them though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, good luck.
You could, you know, I would just let them know for my safety, based on the stories in the news about people impersonating officers, could I please see your ID? It would probably go over a little better coming from a female, I'll be the first to admit it. But I think if you approach it respectfully, you know, they may have some understanding of that.
How about saying, you know, someone in my family was hurt by someone who really wasn't an officer, you know, explain that that's, you know, why you just want to make sure that you're legitimate.
And one last issue before we'll move on. Going back to signing your ticket, they almost always ask you, do you know why I stopped you? And the answer is no. And you sit there because they're hoping you say, yeah, I was speeding. Yeah, I cut that driver off. Yeah, my tags are expired. Because, okay, great. They write that right there in the ticket, admitted going over the speed limit, admitted this, admitted that. You still have your right to remain silent, even on traffic stop. So utilize that.
And you know, no one wants to look stupid. I mean, I don't want to go, oh, duh, I don't know. You know, none of us like to feel that way. But this is one time when it really is best to maybe look stupid and say, I don't know, because then you're not confessing. And a lot of us really don't want to lie. And maybe you were speeding and you're aware of that. So how could you honestly say, I don't know? Well, because you can't read his mind. You're not 100% sure that's why he pulled you over, even if you were speeding. Maybe he had a different reason. So it's always honest to say. say, I don't know.
You talked about how officers can lie to you to get you to admit things. And what other ways do they kind of manipulate you to give up your evidence, or are there other things we should be along with?
They tell you that they are very well trained in what someone does when they're lying, and they'll say when people lie, their eyes flicker, down or up or right or left, and you just did it 18 times, so we know you're lying. So let's just get this over with. It's almost endless. What else?
They tell you that they have eyewitnesses. They tell you that they can run the fingerprints on something. They're going to come back to you. They can tell you that they have other evidence, hair samples, things like that, which they normally don't have, nor even if they did have it, it's too costly for whatever case they're involved in to go to that extreme to run the evidence. They can pretty much lie about anything. They can say your friend who was with you says that you did it. They can say we have pictures. They can promise you, like Suzanne said, that you're going to go home. If you talk to me, you're going home. Well, they were already sending you home.
So what's the justification that they have to say that that's like okay for them to do?
The Supreme Court gave them permission to lie to get a confession. As long as they don't promise you something that they can't deliver, they're fine. So if they say, if you confess to me, you're going to go home, and then they stick you in jail, you can get that confession thrown out. But if they send you home, then they delivered on what they promised. They can't threaten you, though. They can't say, if you don't tell me, I'll shoot you. If you don't tell me, I'll bring harm to your family. They can't give you threats like that.
Like physical threats?
Physical threats, or, saying, or any sort of, any really sort of threat. But they can be pretty coercive.
And even sending you home, that doesn't mean they can't get a warrant later, pick you up and take you to jail. So even that could be temporary.
I think that's what you said. You said if they do say you'll go home if you talk to me and then you go to jail,
then you can get the confession thrown out.
Not the case, though. If they have enough other evidence against the person,
I
the
see.
case could still stand.
But the confession would be thrown out.
So the reason your Miranda right to say you have the right to remain silent. Now tell me what happened.
And now you may speak to this, but are we going to get to recording? Can we, the citizen, record?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Always have that option.
So right now, every time you pick up the newspaper, they're talking about DUIs and making a law stuff like DUI, so I'm going to go over that a little bit. I believe the penalties right now are 10 days minimum jail for the first offense, plus you have to get an ignition alcohol detector, interlocking device in order to start your vehicle for 1 year. And that's just for a first offense. Not to mention all the financial pain that you're going to have, as well as the shame, because it's very much looked down upon in society right now. And you can be impaired to the slightest degree. If your blood alcohol content is over 0.8, there's a presumption that you are impaired. Even if you didn't feel like you were, it's just assumed that you were impaired at the time. And of course, we know that what will get us to that level depends on our size, how much we drink actually, or what if we've eaten beforehand. People metabolize alcohol differently, so that can affect you. And if you're under 21 and you're driving with any alcohol in your system, that's also a violation, and you'll lose your driver's license for 2 years. If you're impaired to the slightest degree with an illegal drug, it's driving under the influence, but you can also have prescription drugs, and you could be taking it per the instructions of the prescription. But if you're impaired when you're driving, even though it's a prescription drug, you'll be considered driving under the influence. And also another issue is if they test you and they find like residue of drugs, say for marijuana you smoked a couple weeks ago, that also can assume that you're impaired as well, which some people are quite surprised.